The Lightning win their 8th straight with a win over the Great Eight. While the chase to Gretzky continues, the Tampa Bay Lightning are red hot, and they had one of the hottest players in the month of February in Brandon Hagel.
You're Locked On Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Josh Sperber welcoming all of you into another episode of Locked On Lightning. We'd like to thank all of you for making Locked On Lightning your first listen every day, and we're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If your team is the Tampa Bay Lightning, then this is the show for you. And today's show is brought to you by wonderful Pistachios, and we will talk about another wonderful win for the Tampa Bay Lightning, a 2-1 victory over the Washington Capitals. The Lightning were held under 20 shots for maybe the only time this season, and they took the win over Washington to start off March with a victory and move to within 3 points of the Florida Panthers, who they play later tonight, and 4 points of the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Lightning still maintain a goal differential of plus 55, which is better than every team in the Eastern Conference except the Washington Capitals, and third in the entire league. And I think the Lightning definitely got the advantage of that call in the opening period. It was the right call. Very clearly a high sticking on Washington. But it is still a big momentum shift. Obviously, anytime you can get a goal called back, it's going to hurt the team that scored. But I think the Lightning did a good job of just kind of using that as okay, we can't let something like that happen again. We can't let them get space down low, because it was really just a lot of red jerseys near the net, and that was a big part of what let that goal go in. And then the Lightning, a few minutes later, just sealed their capitalization with that power play goal, and that's always something that I think you're going to need if you're the Lightning, to just give yourself a little bit of advantage, and especially against teams that are both doing well. Especially against, two of the best teams in hockey right now. Getting that power play goal is always going to be a difference maker. And I think that was just the nail in the coffin. It's interesting to say that for a first period goal, but I think the game would have been a lot different if the Lightning had ended that first period without Chaffee's marker, because I think it would have allowed the Capitals to get back in it. But having that goal denied, having that goal rightfully turned over because of a high sticking that was of like 30 seconds prior to the actual goal, I think really took a lot out of the Capitals players. And it definitely put a big dent in their momentum, and the Lightning took advantage. That's something that they have been doing over the course of this win streak. And you can now look at least this portion of the season is a big success for the Lightning, because right now the Capitals are statistically the best team in the Eastern Conference with their 84 points through 60 games and 38 wins, both leading the entire Eastern Conference in that marker, despite the fact that the Maple Leafs are tied with the Capitals with 38 wins. But the Lightning just really took advantage. They really, took a second to just kind of pause and reassess their game, I think, after that phantom goal, and then some nice round assist numbers ending up on the Chaffee goal, his 11th of the season. And Nikita Kucherov got season assist number 60, second to only Nathan MacKinnon in the NHL in that mark, and Braden Point got assist number 30. He has 61 on the season. Then after that was Brandon Hagel, goal number 30. That was the empty net, which we'll talk about more in the second segment. But the third period was where obviously the Lightning sealed this victory. Gage Gonzalez getting the goal that put the Lightning into an insurmountable lead of 2 goals, his second career NHL goal and his second goal of the season. Gage Gonzalez with 3 points in his last 5 games and 7 in his last 10. Mostly assists over that point, but I mean, I'm going to just keep saying how well Gage Gonzalez has played, because his second call up to the Lightning since coming back from the AHL, not including the Four Nations break where he was sent down there just to get a little extra run and keep the hot streak going, which he certainly did. But I think Gage Gonzalez has been, at least for the Lightning, their most improved prospect this season. Certainly not a guy that I was looking at the beginning of the season to make the impact that he has made, but especially over the course of this win streak, Gage Gonzalez is really getting hot and really establishing himself as a key player for the Tampa Bay Lightning, especially on offense. And honestly, I think you wouldn't look Gonzalez's way at the beginning of the season if you were talking about a Lightning rookie breakout, but it really has been Gage Gonzalez. I think he's broken out in a way that is unexpected and is definitely a big boon for the Lightning. Gonzalez, a second-round pick by the Bolts in 2020, played 2 games with the team last season, averaged just over 10 minutes or just under 10 minutes on the ice in those 2 games. And this year, playing in the third and fourth lines, definitely an expanded role and definitely kind of an entry role for the young prospect that Gonzalez is, just 24 years old, but he's certainly playing like he wants to keep himself on those Lightning lines. And I think that he has absolutely earned that. There is no turning back for Gage Gonzalez. I think that if he has a stint in the AHL, it'll be a short one from here on out. But I think the one thing that Gage Gonzalez has made clear over the last couple of months is that he absolutely deserves to be on this Tampa Bay Lightning NHL roster. I mean, what he has done since February when he got his first assist over this string, before January 30th in the last regulation, a win for the Lightning in regulation. That was when he got his first assist over this streak. Since then, he hasn't gotten more than one game without a point since 2 consecutive games in January, the 12th and the 28th. An assist against the Kings, 1 in the loss against the Islanders, then 3 straight in the second game against the Senators, and the final 2 games before Four Nations. Had 1 against Edmonton, and then a nasty goal against the Capitals, top shelf. I think I had a couple of my friends who were watching that Lightning game, and a friend of mine who won some money on a parlay thanks to the Lightning, talk about how sick that shot was from Gage Gonzalez. And I mean, his 2 goals have been really nice. I think his shooting still it just needs to be featured a bit more, but he's certainly someone who I'd like to see take more shots and try to get himself more involved in the offense. I think a more aggressive Gage Gonzalez can only help the Tampa Bay Lightning, because he has been such a positive impact on the Tampa Bay Lightning offense over these last couple of games. And then Brandon Hagel getting his 30th goal, I think really just symbolized his Star of the Month campaign. He was the second star in the NHL over the month of February, and he had a nice stick check that knocked away a Dylan Strome pass right back to himself, and Hagel took it the rest of the way for the empty net goal, his 30th of the season. Hagel tying his career high with 30 goals. Second time he has reached that mark. First time in 2 years. He reached it in his first full season with the Lightning. He is now with 1 goal set to create a new career high in goals, already at a new career high in points and assists. So Brandon Hagel's Star of the Month campaign over the month of February also owned him Bollt of the Month on our Locked On Lightning poll. And his 2-way ability has continued to prove incredibly effective and incredibly important to the way the Tampa Bay Lightning run their team. And though it was not the deciding goal, it was the final nail in the coffin for the Capitals of Hagel getting his 30th, continuing his breakout season and continuing to establish himself as one of the best 2-way players in the entire NHL. The next segment will focus on Brandon Hagel and his rise to prominence in his third full season and fourth overall with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, I love the no shells variety. It's the perfect grab and go snack for busy days. Whether I'm snacking at my desk, on a road trip, or just need a quick protein boost, they're always my go-to. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are a classic favorite and delicious, if I do say so myself. So get snacking and get cracking with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. And welcome back to Locked On Lightning. We talked about the win against the Washington Capitals, due in large part to Brandon Hagel. And now we will talk about why he was the Bollt of the month. Well, first off, he didn't just lead the Lightning in most categories in the month of February. He led the NHL in a couple categories in the month of February. There was no player in the entire NHL who scored more points than Brandon Hagel. And only Leon Draisaitl scored more goals than Brandon Hagel over the month of February. Hagel, Keller, and Zibanejad paced the NHL with 13 points over February. Only Ryan McDonagh had a higher plus-minus over the month of February than Brandon Hagel did, who had a shorthanded goal to go along with six even strengths goals, 2 game winners for the Lightning. Did not get a point on the power play, though, but he was one of 3 Lightning players who paced the NHL in plus-minus. McDonagh, Hagel, and Cernak, top 3 in plus-minus for the month of February. 7 goals, 6 assists for Hagel, his best month of the season, and a Star of the Month honor. He, on the Bollt of the Month poll, he won 60% of your guys' vote. So thank you guys for taking the time to vote. And make sure you also follow us on X at LO_Lightning. But I think it was pretty easy for Brandon Hagel to be named the Star of the Month for the Tampa Bay Lightning. 7-0-1 were the Bolts in the month of February. No losses in regulation time. An overtime loss at the beginning of the month. And since then, it has been victories upon victories for the Tampa Bay Lightning, as they started off March with that 3-1 win over the Capitals. And all of them, I think, Brandon Hagel plays a big role on. This season has been a breakout in a lot of different ways, starting with his most ice time per game in his entire NHL career, a stat for Hagel that has, for the most part, been steadily increasing over his NHL career, that began with the Blackhawks with 1 game in 2019 and continued during the 2020-21 season. Then he was traded to the Lightning, where he really broke out, as now scored 86 goals in his last 3 full seasons playing with Tampa Bay. He missed just 1 game over the last 2 seasons for the Lightning, and this year has played 59 of the Lightning's 59 games so far. So, I mean, just his availability makes him so key to this Tampa Bay Lightning franchise. And then, just other than the fact that he's available, he happens to do just about everything well on the ice. He's a great defensive player. He has been exceptional on offense for the Lightning this season, trailing only Nikita Kucherov in points and assists, tied with Victor Hedman for second on the team with 38. And he is second on the Lightning to Braden Point with 31 goals on the season. He leads all offensive players on the Lightning with a plus-minus of plus 29. And there can be an argument that, regardless of the fact that Kucherov has 19 more points than Hagel does this season, Brandon Hagel might not only have been the best player on the Lightning this season, but he also has probably been the most key Lightning player. I think you can take any player off this Lightning roster, except for maybe Andrei Vasilevsky, other than Brandon Hagel, and it would not have as big an effect. Vasilevsky, Kucherov, Hedman, you could put those guys in that same kind of conversation. And I certainly don't want to say that Hagel is the most key player to the Lightning, but I do think he has been their breakout star and maybe even their MVP. Obviously, Nikita Kucherov has led the Bolts in points, and that, I think, is something that we have just grown to expect. He is the best player, I think, in the NHL on the offensive side of the puck. But what Brandon Hagel is able to do on both sides of the puck, though, just keeps him at a high level. I think with the way I rate sports players, you can obviously, I think in general, people rate offense on more importance than any other aspect of the game. And this isn't just true for hockey. So the guys like Nikita Kucherov, Nathan MacKinnon, Connor McDavid are the people that I think are going to be in consideration for best player in the league on the simple fact that they do the most obvious thing to any fan in hockey, and they just absolutely tear it up on the offensive side of the puck. And I'm not trying to dispute that. I'm not even here trying to say that Brandon Hagel is at that level, because I think, 19 points fewer shows that he might be a little bit lower than Kucherov, McKinnon, and McDavid on the offensive side of the puck. But no three of those players can match what he is on the defensive end. And when you look at some of the all-time great players, a lot of them aren't exactly immortalized for what they do on the defensive side of the puck. And it might not mean that Hagel is a better player than McKinnon or McDavid or even Kucherov, but he may be more valuable to his team than any one of those guys, even Nikita Kucherov, for what he does on the defensive side of the ice as well. And I think it's very easy to talk about the offense that Brandon Hagel provides for the Tampa Bay Lightning. He's on an 8-game point streak right now, and has scored in every game of this win streak for Tampa Bay. But I think his defensive contributions and the chemistry that he has with Cirelli, that not just improves the Lightning offense, but their defense, is something that makes him stand out against a lot of other players in the league. Because if you look at a lot of the top offensive guys in the NHL, these aren't players that you expect to make the same kind of impact on the defensive side of the puck. But even if Brandon Hagel, even if you take off half of the points from Brandon Hagel, he has 68 points this season. Let's say he drops down to 34. Still, he is an impact player. Still, he is a key player for the Lightning for what he does on the defensive side of the puck. And dropping him down to 34 puts him 1 point ahead of Nick Paul, who is honestly a pretty good example of just a more defensive forward Brandon Hagel. Paul does have the size and the skill to make an impact on offense, of course, but his defensive skills is what keeps him as a prominent player in the Lightning lineup, regardless of his ability to screen the goalie and put pucks on net. And with Brandon Hagel, it is his offensive skills that are helping him become a breakout star in the NHL this season. But I think it's his defensive ability. It's his ability to stick check. It's ability to just frankly get to the puck or the right spot on the ice before most other people there with his speed. Just there's so many different things Brandon Hagel can do on skates that make him a dangerous player, no matter if he has the puck on his stick or not, that are starting to put him in the conversation of best player in the league. And again, he might not be the individual best defensive player in the league, even as a forward, even on his team, because that honor might go to Anthony Cirelli. He might not be the best offensive player in the league, definitely not on his team, because Nikita Kucherov exists. But Brandon Hagel is just so good at just about every aspect of the game in hockey that you have to start talking about him as one of the top players in the league. I know it's a bit of a reach to do that after far and away his best NHL season. Hagel currently 7 points off of his highest point scoring margin that came last season when he had 75 in 82 games. He's averaging over a point a game for the first time in his NHL career. So I think some people might say it's a stretch after one dominant season to put the guy among the best in the NHL, but I think I absolutely do with Brandon Hagel. Not because of any one thing he does, but because he does so many different things well, and because he contributes in every single aspect of the game to the Lightning. Power play, he's got those. Shorthanded, he's got those more than just about anybody in the entire NHL. 3 shorthanded goals, 7 points on the power play, 7 shorthanded points. Seems like every shorthanded opportunity, Brandon Hagel is involved, and he's involved enough on the power plays to make him effective, and even strength. He continues to be that terror that he is on the ice. So I think Brandon Hagel absolutely deserved the Bollt of the Month, the second star of the month in the NHL, and absolutely deserves the honor of being one of the NHL's best players, proving he was already one of the world's best after being named to the Team Canada's Four Nations face-off squad. But now we get back to the team, and the entire Lightning team has a very important date with the Florida Panthers. A lot of playoff implications, divisional implications. Well, anything goes at this point in the season. We preview the Lightning and Panthers' third installment of 2024-25 next. Well, folks, I think this is the big one for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Their game against the Florida Panthers. Two of the hottest teams in hockey right now. The Panthers riding a 3-game win streak, including wins over Edmonton and Calgary in their last 2. They have won 8 of their last 10, 4 out of their last 5, and 7 out of their last 9. The Lightning have won 9 of their last 10. They have not lost a regulation game in over a month. The Lightning's last regulation loss came in January to the Chicago Blackhawks. Since then, they are 8-0-1, an overtime loss to the New York Islanders to start February. That's it. So the Lightning are probably the hottest team in hockey right now. They currently own the longest win streak, longest active win streak after Winnipeg's 11-game win streak, a season long, was ended a couple days ago by the Nashville Predators. The Lightning sit with 2 games in hand over the Florida Panthers and behind 3 points. They also have 1 game in hand over the Maple Leafs, who were 4 points ahead of the Lightning and on a 5-game win streak. And the Lightning are at a tough point in the season because right now the only team in front of them are the Panthers and the Maple Leafs. They've been gaining ground consistently over the rest of their division. They're 8 points clear of the Red Wings, who are in 4th. But now this is the tough part. This is what separates the weak from the strong, the men from the boys, whatever you want to call it. It's the home stretch of the season. The only thing the Lightning have ahead of them are the 2 top teams in their division by just about every single metric. However, if you look at the standings right now, first place seems more reachable than ever for Tampa Bay, especially starting this with this game against the Panthers. Florida has played 2 more games than the Tampa Bay Lightning. They have 2 more wins, but 3 more points than the Bolts at 77. 1 more loss in regulation. And the Lightning have split the 2 prior games with the Panthers, a 4-2 loss at home and a 4-0 shutout in Sunrise, where this game will be played on Monday night. And, of course, Brandon Hagel has been a big key to the Lightning hot streak. And the Panthers just made a pretty big trade as well. Seth Jones going to the Florida Panthers for their backup goalie, Spencer Knight. An interesting and risky in some ways trade for the Florida Panthers. But I think it's something that potentially could work out in their favor. A backup goal, there are more important things than a backup goalie. And the Panthers, like the Lightning, have 1 goalie that they use more than anyone, and that's Sergei Bobrovsky, who has been with the team since 2019 and is now very much cemented as their starting goalie. And if you take a look at the Panthers' schedule, they did not play on Sunday, so Bobrovsky is likely to start against the Tampa Bay Lightning. continuing this homestand for the Florida Panthers. So we'll have best on best in net. But I think a couple ways the Lightning can try to get an advantage over Florida. I mean, these are two teams that are in the top 10 in both goals for and goals allowed. Really, the only big difference that I see with these two teams is the power play. I mean, if you look at just about every stat, the Lightning are slightly ahead of the Panthers percentages-wise, slightly better face-off percentage, 0.3 more goals per game more, 0.2 fewer goals allowed more, 5 percentage points higher on the power play, 2 percentage points higher on the penalty kill. These are two very even teams by just about every metric. And really, the only thing that jumps out to me on the schedule from these two is the wins and the overtime losses, with one more for the Lightning and 2 fewer wins than the Florida Panthers. But these are always going to be big games. And right now, it's just going to get bigger. You know, I can't say this is going to be the biggest game of the season between the Lightning and the Panthers, because they have a date at one of the last games of the season at Amalie Arena. The Panthers are coming to town. The last home game of the season on April 15th is Lightning Panthers, second to last game of the season, as the Lightning close out the year with 4 divisional games in the last 5 contests of the NHL season. But this is, I think, definitely a tone setter. Obviously, having the lead, the winner of this game will have the lead coming into the final matchup in the season series. And I think that can be big, just having any kind of advantage over your rival team, over a team that I think is very close to you in just a lot of ways. And obviously, the Panthers, the defending champs, that's where the Lightning are trying to get to. And you've got two teams with some pretty similar buildups. You've got the top forwards on your team. You've got like Barkov, Reinhart, as in like Cirelli and Hagel for the Lightning, are really solid two-way players. You have Tkachuk as just a big-time goal-getter, whether it's scoring or passing. He is just involved in a lot of those. You have a guy like Barkov and a guy like Kucherov, who are really going to be the maestros of the offense and set things up, and then a very reliable Russian in the net. These are two teams that have a very similar makeup. And they're both, I think, offensive-minded teams. They both rely on their two-way forwards to provide a lot of help on defense. And it's a battle of two teams that are just white hot right now. You know, these are two teams with some of the longest win streaks in the league, with the Panthers having a 3-game win streak and the Lightning with the longest active win streak at 8 straight. These are two teams that have been just about dead even, but right now the Lightning might just be that much better than the Panthers. Panthers are their last loss to Seattle a couple days ago. Seattle and Washington are the only two teams that have beaten Florida in the past 10 contests, and the strength of schedule in the last 10, which is separated by just 1 win between the Lightning and Panthers, have been relatively even. I think if you compare the streaks the teams have been on, the Lightning might be a little bit more impressive, but the defending champs are always someone that you have to respect, and I think they're going to be out for blood after the Lightning shut them out 4-0 at their place the last time these two teams met. But obviously, this is a rivalry that is easily stoked. It is easily made into a bigger game. And, you know, this is on the heels of the Stadium Series as well. Next up in the Stadium Series is Lightning Panthers. So a lot more eyes on that rivalry. And I think this is a big test for both of these teams. This could really not necessarily solidify as in stone who is going to be where in the playoffs, where the Lightning will fall, if they're going to be in the bottom 2 or the top 2 of the playoff teams in their division. But I think this game is going to be really telling. I think this is maybe it's definitely the biggest test for both teams at this point in the season, because it's an important game that means a lot for the division. It is one of the games that, depending on how the rest of the season shapes up, could retroactively end up as having the biggest playoff implications of any game that the Lightning played this season. So obviously this is one that they need to win. Vasilevsky has been absolutely on fire in net, but Bobrovsky is coming off a recent shutout. So these are two hot goalies. These are two teams that are absolutely on fire, and they don't like each other. So that should make for a very entertaining contest. We'll talk about that one more tomorrow. But that is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Lightning. And I'm Josh Sperber, thanking all of you for making Locked On Lightning your first listen today. Now for your second listen, check out the Locked On NHL podcast, bringing you the daily league-wide stories that matter with the local coverage you love from Locked On. Find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts, and on YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcast. You found us, so please like us, follow us, subscribe to us. We really appreciate your guys' support. So thank you again for tuning in. Once again, I'm Josh Sperber, and enjoy the start of your week. And don't forget, go Bolts.